gonna have to stand up again.
Yes.
Go ahead.
Call the meeting of the Township of Parsippany Troy Hills Planning Board to order. It's Monday, February 25th at 7:30 p.m. This meeting is being conducted in accordance with, has been announced and is being conducted in accordance with NJSA 10:4-6 et sec of the New Jersey Open Public Meeting Act. I ask you to please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please call the roll.
Mr. O'Perowicz?
Here.
Councilman DePiero?
Here.
Mr. Dinsmore?
Here.
Mr. Bergeri?
Here.
Ms. Hernandez? Here. Mr. Mandel?
Here.
Mr. Mealy?
Here.
Ms. Veely? Here. Chairman Keller?
Here.
Also present, we have Mr. Carlson?
Here.
Ms. Favate? Here. Mr. Holloway?
Here.
Okay, I'll open the meeting to the general public for anything that's not appearing on our agenda this evening. Seeing no one come forward, I'll close the public portion. Have correspondence asking for a postponement from tonight to March 25th, and that's for Vivek, how do you pronounce that, Mashbar?
Let's go with Machar.
Machar, application 18:525. Someone care to make a motion?
So moved, Dinsmore.
Is there a second?
Second, Mandel.
Mandel, second. Please call a roll.
Mr. O'Perowicz?
Yes.
Councilman DePiero?
Yes.
Mr. Dinsmore?
Yes.
Mr. Bergeri?
Yes.
Ms. Hernandez? Yes. Mr. Mandel?
Yes.
Mr. Mealy?
Yes.
Ms. Veely?
Yes.
Chairman Keller?
Yes. No further notice required on that application.
And just for the public, if anyone is here for the application, Vivek Machar, 96 Chesapeake Road, that will be held on March 25th, 2019. You will not receive further notice.
Okay. Is everything good with the resolution as presented?
Yes,
Yep.
yes.
All right. Someone care to make a motion then on a resolution for application 18:522?
Motion to accept.
Second, Dinsmore.
Okay. O'Perowicz and Dinsmore, please call the roll.
Mr. O'Perowicz?
Yes.
Mr. Dinsmore?
Yes.
Ms. Hernandez?
Yes.
Mr. Mandel?
Yes.
Mr. Mealy?
Yes.
Chairman Keller?
Yes. Okay, the first and only item now remaining on the agenda is application 19:501 for Franciscan Sisters of St. Elizabeth, located at, sorry about the voice, this morning I could barely squeak. It's, my apologies, 499 Park Road.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. William Strasser, Strasser Associates, Paramus, New Jersey, appearing for the applicant, Franciscan Sisters of St. Elizabeth, Inc. First of all, thank you for taking the time to hear our application. Tonight's application is one of which we are proposing a two-story addition consisting of 6,913 square feet, which would be on the, actually affixed to the convent section of the premises. As the board, I'm sure, is aware, we've been before the board a number of times. The site consists of 25 plus acres. The structure which we are asking approval for to affix to this is actually to the actual convent area, which is the main house of the structure, which was actually the main house of the estate when the sisters purchased it back in the 50s. We are proposing an addition which would consist of 12 new bedrooms and 6 new shared bathrooms. There would be a bathroom between each of the 2 bedrooms. We are also proposing that this site, it would actually jut out on the southerly side of the structure itself, and we would currently, 2 existing bedrooms would be converted to other uses, and one would be used for an office and the other would be used for a laundry room. One point I do want to clarify this is not in addition to the infirmary. I know one of the reports came through saying it was for the retiring sisters, but you'll hear testimony from Mother Lily, our superior, that it's actually not in addition for an infirmary. It's We're lucky enough to have a number of other sisters which are coming to the site to work at the school. We currently have, and Sister Lily will testify to this, 25 sisters on the site that teach in our daycare Montessori school, which is also on the site. The site which you'll see, and I'm going to mark these as an exhibit, the ones to your left. The first one, which we marked as A1, which is basically one of which comprises the entire site, just to give you a perspective on the size of the site and the actual size of the addition which we're proposing, which is rather minimal compared to the overall site. We are proposing 4 additional parking spaces to service the structure, which is the main common area, 2 of which would be handicap spaces, the other 2 which would be regular spaces. We currently have 6 spaces which service our common area, and those 6 will be expanded to 10 as set forth on our plan. Again, 2 of which would be handicap spaces and 2 of which would be regular spaces. I do have with me tonight our Superior, Mother Lily, who will testify. I do have Mr. Rigg, our site engineer, and Mr. Abramowitz, our architect, will also testify with regard to the plans which are proposed for the site. And again, it's a 2-story addition which will be built into the grade on the southerly side of the structure. It would consist of a sunroom and the bedrooms as proposed with the bathrooms. Having said that, I'd like to move on to present Mother Lily, if she could be sworn in. And I know she'll testify honestly.
Before you call witnesses, can we ask our planner to go over any waivers that you had requested?
Just briefly, permission to enter property, I believe that they submitted that, they indicated that. Other required approvals, you've submitted an application for a major soil moving permit.
Yes, we have, and that was, and we apologize, that was submitted on Friday, and your engineer was good enough to have reviewed it, and we did in fact get his results today. We certainly appreciate that.
Okay, great. And as to whether there are any other required approvals, I assume that will be covered in testimony, as will the county planning board application. We recommended a waiver on the DEP letters because there are no DEP regulated wetlands. And then there are a series of requested waivers which relate to the fact that it's a large piece of property and only one small portion of the property is affected, and so the applicant had asked for relief from providing the full information for the entire 25 or so acre property. We felt that was a reasonable request, so we've recommended waivers on providing natural features, topographic contours, spot elevations, buildings and setbacks, parking. We'll get to parking and testimony as well. Storm drainage, lighting, and landscaping. In terms of zoning, the applicant also requested to provide that information for the existing building and the addition only. We concurred with that. Meets and bounds, the applicant did submit a partial topographic survey. We felt that was sufficient to address the level of detail. It included meets and bounds information. We don't believe a traffic study is required, given that the proposed addition will not generate significant new traffic or generally change the existing circulation. We felt no environmental assessment study was necessary, given the lack of regulated wetlands or floodplains on the property. And then lastly, the applicant had asked for combined preliminary and final approval, and we thought that was reasonable as well. So recommended a waiver on those 2 requirements.
Okay. Chair will entertain a motion then to accept the waivers as outlined in the planner's report, except for those that will be addressed in testimony.
So moved, Dinsmore.
Dinsmore, is there a second?
Second.
Second, Mr. DePiero. Call the roll.
Mr. O'Perrick?
Yes.
Councilman DePiero?
Yes.
Mr. Dinsmore?
Yes.
Mr. Frigieri?
Yes.
Ms. Hernandez? Yes. Mr. Mendel?
Yes.
Mr. Mealy?
Yes.
Ms. Veely? Yes. Chairman Keller?
Yes. Proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, for the record, we do have, Mr. Rigg had applied for the Morris County Planning Board, and I present this to Susan also for her review. Mark, this is a waiver from Morris County Planning Board. The document speaks for itself. They believe this proposal, our plan as submitted, is exempt from Morris County Planning Board approval. So, Council, if you have this marked as A1.
A3, I believe we're on, are we not?
Yeah, your exhibits are A1 and 2.
Okay, I didn't even mark those yet, but
Okay.
I will if I can. Mark the first exhibit.
Yeah, I've got the Board of Site Plans, site photos and the site layout as A1.
Okay.
And then it looks like you've got colorized version of the site plan next to it,
Yes.
which is A2.
I do have, Council, I do have another board of pictures which I'm gonna run through. So just for clarity, Mark, this is A2.
Let's make that A2 then, yeah.
A2.
Make your colorized site plan A3.
That is the cover page, this one?
Yes.
Okay.
It's just the cover page. And that makes the exemption letter from the Morris County Board A4.
You want to consider the entire set on the site plan as A3, or should we want those each individually marked?
That's the setup there. We can just mark the whole set as A3.
Okay. I can pass up A4 to the board so Susan can see it also.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, the applicant calls Mother Lily, please, if I may.
Mother, can you raise your right hand, please? And do you swear the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Would you state and spell your name for the record, please?
Mother Lily Perepara.
Will you spell that, please?
Lilly Perapadan.
Thank you. Your witness.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So you can tell me what your occupation is, please?
It's a Delegate General for the Franciscan Sisters. of
Could you
St.
use the
Elizabeth.
microphone, please?
Yeah. Is it on?
Sounds like it.
Yep.
It's a Delegate General for the Franciscan Sisters of St. Elizabeth.
And how long have you been the Delegate General?
It will be the 7th year.
Okay, and can you tell me what your responsibilities are as a Delegate General of the Franciscan Sisters?
I am the taking care of the convents in the United States.
Okay, can you tell the board how many convents there are in the United States?
It's 5.
Okay, what are their locations?
It's in Nutley, Jersey City, Ramsey, and one we have in Florida.
And with regard to the location in Parsippany, is that the main location, the mother house for the order in the United States?
Yes.
Okay, and can you tell me how many sisters are living and residing in Parsippany at this time?
25.
And can you tell me what their duties are?
Most of the sisters are teachers in our school, St. Elizabeth Montessori School, in our property.
Okay, and when you say the Montessori School, that's a school that the sisters operate on the site in Parsippany and Park Road?
Yes.
Okay, and how many children attend that school on a daily basis?
It's, I think, 65.
Now, sister, with regard to the 25 sisters that are in residence in Parsippany at Park Road, can you tell me how many of them have motor vehicles?
None.
Okay. And can you tell me how many drive or have driver's licenses?
It's 9 sisters.
9 sisters?
Sisters, yes.
Okay. And can you tell me how many vehicles the sisters actually own?
For the Franciscan sisters, we have 6 cars.
And are those cars parked in the garages on the site?
Yes,
And how many garages are on the site?
2.
So those cars, those vehicles are not parked out in front of the convent or on the school grounds, are they?
No.
Okay. Now, sister, I'm going to ask you to just step up and go to the board just for purposes of clarification on the application.
Sister, please,
Take the
please take the
microphone.
microphone with you. Thank you.
If you could just very briefly describe, looking at A1, if you could just draw your attention to this site, and that's the site map which is on the A1 document. This area here in brown on the A1 document on the map, is that the area where the addition would be?
Yes,
And the area which I'm pointing to, which is fronts basically almost on Park Road, is that the existing school?
yes,
And the areas which are off to the, actually would be to the east of the proposed addition, are those the living quarters for the sisters as they are
Yes.
constructed now?
yes.
All right, now drawing your attention to the A1 document, the photo on
This,
Photo number 1, can you tell us what that is?
it's to school,
That's the school?
school, yes.
And photo number 2?
That's a school too, yes,
And photo number 3?
school too.
All right, now draw your attention to photo 4. Can you tell
That's
me what
the-
that is?
In front of the house,
That's
the convent, yeah,
Okay, is that the main convent?
main convent, yes.
And photo number 5?
Continuation, the same house.
On the side and looking to the right of 5?
That's the garage. Convent, yeah.
And photo number 6?
This is the back of the house, the convent, in the backyard.
And photo number 7?
That's our backyard, on the
The backyard of the
outskirts of the
convent?
convent, yes.
And photo number 8?
It's backyard too.
Now, looking to the rear of photo number 8, is that the area where the addition would be built?
Here, right here. It's-
All right, now, we're going to...
Mr. Strasser, if you're going to continue there, can you grab the microphone as well? I want to make sure that our clerk is able to pick you up.
Okay, now, sister, I'm going to refer you to the Exhibit A2. And drawing your attention, now this is the photos on A2, they depict where actually the addition is going to be built. Is that right? This is the backyard, pretty
yes,
much?
Yes.
All right, drawing your attention to photo number 9. Can you tell me what that is?
This is the side of the infirmary in the back,
Okay, and how many bedrooms are there currently in the infirmary?
6,
And what is the infirmary used for?
for elderly sisters,
Okay, and how many are residing in the infirmary at this time?
2.
All right, and photo number 10 on A2?
That's the front of the house, on the side, in front of the infirmary, in the front of the house, this one.
And photo number 11, can you
In the
tell me what that
backyard.
is?
It's the backyard.
All right,
In the walk, this is the way to go to the infirmary, that's our backyard.
and can you point, using photo number 11, where is the addition based on photo number 11?
It's going to be at that side over there.
Okay. And photo number 12, can you tell me what that is?
That's the backyard too. Back of the, back of our infirmary.
Looking at the back
like
of the
this,
convent?
Yes.
And photo number 13, what is that?
That's the addition going to come this side over here.
Right there in
Yeah.
13? And 14?
Same. This is the place it's going to be the addition, going to be.
So the addition would be coming
Coming
off,
from
the
there.
existing infirmary
This
would
side.
be coming off from that
Yes.
site. And 15, is that the back of the infirmary also?
Yes.
And the addition would be built right about
Right.
there where that drain pipe is approximately?
Yeah, from here.
Okay. And photo 16, is that your
It's
backyard?
The backyard.
All right, and photo 17, is that the back
It's
of the convent?
backyard, yes.
And photo
It's a- no, it's
18,
back.
is that the back of the infirmary?
Yes.
And that's where, pretty much where the addition would be on
Going
the
to be,
right-hand
yes.
side? And photo 19,
Far back of the infirmary to the end of the property.
Mm-hmm.
That's the fence.
okay. And this is the fence also at the end of the property?
Yes. Mhm.
And looking at photo 21, where is that?
It's our backyard.
Backyard, and 22?
It's in the front of our house. No, this one, the backyard too, where we're going to extend, that's the little shed over there.
Okay. Can you use that for storage, that
Storage,
garage back there?
yes.
And 23, what does that depict?
It's the backyard too.
Hmm?
It's in the back there.
All backyard, and same thing with 24?
Yeah, yes.
Okay, all right, thank you, sister. Mr. Chairman, I have nothing further for Mother Lily.
Do you have any questions for Mother Lily? No. Any board members have any questions on her testimony?
Well, just an observation. On the first drawing, the first plan, can any of the building addition be seen from Park Road? I
No.
couldn't tell that from the photographs.
No, you don't see from the Park Road, the
You-
back.
You can't see where the additions are from Park Road at all?
No.
Okay,
So here's. Park Road is here.
right.
The addition is here. This addition will not be able to be seen because the first of all, it's a distance which our engineer will testify to. The setback is extreme. There are all trees in the front here, and this addition is actually behind the existing buildings.
Okay.
Councilman, I can tell you, someone who lives on Park Road, you can't even see the convent from Park Road.
Oh.
You can't say, no, it's,
You have to enter
it's
the
a great
property.
setting. And this is all wooded land also. This is all totally wooded there. And these are all large trees, some pines, numerous trees.
So the residents in Park Road will not see it. You don't have any drivers that are gonna be living in there, so there's no traffic impact.
No.
No,
They're adding
also-
parking places anyway,
For no drivers, for visitors, I guess.
visiting.
Visitors just to the convent, there are
Right.
a couple of spaces in the front of the convent itself. And then we also have the large parking lot for the school, which is open during the day, which is right here, which we applied, and we got permission from this board back in 2012 was the final on that, 11 and 12.
No religious services are held?
There is a chapel in the convent, but it's
Convent.
just for the sisters,
Yes.
but
Just for
nothing
the-
for the public.
No.
No, sir.
What is the distance between the school and the dwelling?
So I can have Mr. Rigg testify to that, but
Approximately.
approximately from the school to the dwelling,
Yeah.
probably about 500-600 feet.
Okay.
It's
Is that
a
problem?
large area.
Is that a problem for the nuns walking from one building to the other?
Depends on the time of the year and the weather.
It's an
You
age.
can ask them. It is a long walk. Sister Kathy, who's here, is the principal of the school, and it's a tough walk down the hill. In fact, when we got the approval for the school, we did put in some railings here because on wintry nights and mixes, when the weather was mixing, it can get slippery. So, but it's a walk.
Is it a walkway as well?
There is a
Yes.
walkway. They walk down,
Okay.
and then there is a sidewalk going here on the side.
Thank you.
So are there any other questions for the testimony from Mother Lily? Okay, Mr. Strasser, proceed.
Thank you, sir. Call Mr. Bruce Rigg.
So if you'd raise your right hand, do you swear the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Would you state and spell your name for the record, please?
Bruce Rigg, R-I-G-G, offices at 1000 Maple Ave, Glen Rock, New Jersey. I'm a licensed professional engineer, land surveyor, planner, state of New Jersey. Been a licensed as an engineer since 1982, surveyor since 1976, a planner since 1981. I'm also a certified municipal engineer, and I've appeared before this board on the last application for this specific property.
All your licenses are current.
Yes, they are.
Okay. Anyone have any questions on this expert? Okay, proceed.
Good evening, Mr. Rigg. Mr. Rigg, you were retained by the Franciscan Sisters for preparation of this application, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, I'd ask if you could go over to the exhibits which have been marked. First, I'm going to refer you to A3. Is that the cover sheet which was prepared in conjunction with this application?
Yeah, yes, this is cover sheet for the entire set of plans. And I also have my sheets, which are sheets C1 through 6. I'm going to address more than likely only C1, 2, and 3. The rest of them are details and soil erosion detail.
Okay, and before you do that, Council, the C plans are these. Now, they are part of the A3. You want these marked separately since we testified?
Yeah, why don't
to
we
them?
do that?
Aren't
Okay.
they in our packets?
But these are colorized versions. Is yours
Mine's
colored?
colorized.
Oh,
Ours are
then
colorized.
you don't need to mark the plan. If they were submitted in the site plan packet, then you don't need to.
Okay, what we will do is I'll have Mr. Rigg just relate to the C1 if he's speaking of C1, 2, and 3.
Sure.
All right.
The-
Mr. Rigg, I'm going to draw your attention. We'll start at the zoning requirements on the A3 cover page. You
Sure.
can speak to those.
To go through the details of the property, property is known 499 Park Road. It's block 166, lots 135, 135.03, and block 155, lot 7. The 155, lot 7 is zone R, I believe that's R3, and the remainder of the site is zone, R1. Entire site's 25.24 acres. where this property with a conditional use requires 2 acres. The required lot width is 150, where we have approximately 1,269 foot of lot width. Front yard setback, we're showing the minimum setback for all of the buildings. 50 foot is the minimum required. The school, which I guess is on the key map that we had up previously. This is where the 5697 is, our building being back here. Closer, it far exceeds the setback. I would estimate it over 250 feet to the front of the building. Side yard setbacks, the minimum is 35, where we have 99.9 and 104.7 to the addition, which is this portion here. The perimeter buffer, we have 20 foot required, we have 35.1 minimum. We have building coverage of 35% permitted, 4.4 was existing, and we're now at 5.16. The impervious coverage permitted is 65, and we're proposing 14.77. Maximum building height is allowed at 2 stories, 35 feet, and this will be 2 stories and 19 feet. And the parking spaces required, to elaborate on that specific, there is no, we didn't find anything in Parsippany's ordinances that specifies our use. We looked for the closest use that we could, so it ended up we used what would be the assisted living. RSIS calls for 0.5 spaces per bedroom. Parsippany calls for 0.6. Since this building will have 16, we ended up at 9.6 spaces, 9.6 required, or 10. So we've upped the amount of spaces to match that 10, even though, as previously stated, we don't anticipate any additional cars other than we now have additional parking, which I'll show in a minute, around the site, so there's easier accessibility to the new addition.
Mr. Rigg, before you go there, if you look to C1, could you just point out to the board, we refer to these 6 spaces, could you point out where those 6 spaces are?
Sure.
Please.
On C1, in front of the building now, there was 6 spaces that were existing. As you come up from the school off Park Road, you pulled in, there was 6 spaces here. We've reconfigured the spaces, added 1 accessible space at the end, and added 1 parallel space here, so we have 7 plus 1 in front of the building. In the rear of the building, going right to the parking instead of the building itself, what we've added, there's a driveway up to the rear now, there's a garage back here with a old turnaround, which I guess be a little challenging with any larger vehicles. What's proposed now is essentially a cul-de-sac at the end. When you get up towards the building, with a van accessible handicap space and a second space next to it, and a ramp that goes down to the lower level of the 2-story building. There's a set of steps that goes up to the upper level in the back. To back up a little bit, Mr. Abramowitz will talk more about the addition, but the building is 38.5 feet wide.
I'm sorry, Mr. Rick, could I just ask you one question before you
Sure.
go to parking? The 7 spaces that are created at the front of the existing building, is
Yes.
that entirely through striping, or is any new pavement? being
Just
added?
striping.
Okay.
Yeah, we don't have to change anything up here. The spaces were sort of, I'm not sure how they were striped, but now it's, using the proper size, you can get all 8 spaces without any issue.
And Bruce, while you're on that, I just want to describe for parking purposes. This area here there's, in the sister's residence, this is a large garage, is that correct?
Yes.
And at times, there's parking, although it's not striped, there's parking in front of this garage also, correct?
Yes.
In this area here, which is basically totally open, could you just briefly describe the size of that area, although it's
Well,
not striped, on how large it is?
To realize how large it is, we have the standard 24-foot aisle width shown between the last parking space and the building. We have enough room here that you could probably add an additional row of parking by the building without having any issue. We don't see the need for it, so we wouldn't be striping it for it anyhow. So if someone parks there, there won't be any issue with any of the parking spaces that are proposed to be striped at that location.
I was less concerned with having enough parking, and maybe if we could not have so much. Sounds like you don't need it, but you're not really creating much new pavement expressly for parking.
The ones in the back are almost out of necessity because they
Exactly.
provide the accessibility to the lower level. And having needs to get in there right now, there's a set of steps in the front of the building. This makes it much easier to get into the lower level, or accessible to the lower level. The building itself is 38 and a half, and it's approximately 106 feet, including the curved area. The lower level, or the upper level, actually comes out to grade at the patio on the top. Again, I think Mr. Abramos will speak more of that. This is designed so there's, as I said, there's a set of steps up to the upper level, the ramp or a set of steps to the lower level, so that you can gain access either through a set of steps or you can do it through an accessible ramp to the lower level. This is all of the area of the addition. Nothing other than the striping is taking place up front. The sheet, let's see, Plan C2 shows the grading and utilities. This is a rather steep slope here. The good and the bad of that is that the building actually cuts into the hill. This patio here is at a lower level. It goes up again, so this building is actually somewhat shielded from the properties in the rear just because of the existing topography. We've regraded this so that the stormwater goes around both sides with a flat area around the patio. Into a retention system for the new impervious areas is underneath the proposed driveway. What we've done is we've configured the existing storm drain. There's actually two sets of storm drains going on here. You have the existing stormwater that we're going to have it continue through the site to the existing storm drains, and any of the new impervious is going to be collected in the stormwater system so that we keep the zero increase in runoff for the site. There has been permeability tests that we've used. Based on that, our plans essentially will retain up to the 100-year storm. The way it's required to be designed, it's actually will contain 200-year storms because you have to use half of the permeability test. So the system should function very well, reduce the runoff, and show no, it actually would reduce the runoff because the areas that are being collected used to run through the system and they'll now go into the retention system. The existing walkway that runs through here and the driveway, essentially it's been regraded. There's better access to the garage and easier access, much easier access to the building in the back. On the same page, we show the soil movement calculations. The cut and the fills on this, between the two, we have approximately 1,500 yards of soil being moved as part of the application, essentially because we're carving into the hill. Most of that's leaving the site. We have about 1,200 yards that will have to leave the site.
Mr. Rigg, could you, looking at the C1 document, could you tell us how the, okay, this bulb that's shown here, could you tell us why that was drawn into the plan?
Essentially trying to put a turnaround on the site. Easier. Right now, if you get down in there, it's going to take quite a bit of maneuvering. You can see the dotted line. This was the limit of the pavement. This area now, more than enough room to turn around a vehicle in the back. I've had this conversation with Mr. Strasser today asking about the size. I think any ambulances or anything of that size should be able to turn around here with no issue. And the question that always comes up, will a fire truck turn around? And it's always, they can't turn around on a normal cul-de-sac, but they have much more room than they would before this took place to get to the same building. I believe with a few maneuvers, yes, they can get in now in the back.
Mr. Rigg, with regard to your examination and study of the site, are you aware of any environmental constraints on the site itself and the area where we propose to build the structure?
No, matter of fact, I believe there was a letter, I think it may have been submitted to the board. We did have an evaluation to confirm that there are no wetlands in the area we're working or anywhere near it, so that there's no issues with that, and we're well above any flood hazard areas.
With regard to drainage, I know you testified a little bit before on the system. Is there any possibility of any drainage coming off the structure which would go on to any adjoining property owners or affect their properties in a detrimental manner?
The way, because of where this addition is being placed, any stormwater, if it did come out of the system, it would end up going back into the same system that's there today. So it wouldn't be going off onto someone else's site, it'd just be continuing into the existing system. It's my belief from what we've found that there shouldn't be any unless there's some strange malfunction of the system.
And as a result of this, if this were to be built, Mr. Rigg, do you see, from an engineering standpoint, do you see any detrimental effect on any of the adjoining property owners to the rear of the site?
No.
Mr. Chairman, I have nothing further for Mr. Rigg.
Mr. Chairman, I have one question I just wanted to make sure that, have you received the engineer's report that was issued?
I did, yes.
Any questions or comments?
No, I believe we may have to talk on a few of the issues, but most of them, they're not issues that can't be addressed engineering-wise.
Okay, that's what I wanted to make sure.
There is the one last plan with some of the landscaping and the lighting. I can go through very quickly. I think I've knocked one over once or twice before. Essentially, we're taking down 16 trees of size as part of this application. What we proposed on the site is a replacement. I believe it's 14. We've used deciduous. I saw in one of the comments that we should possibly mix them with deciduous and evergreens. We don't have issue with doing that. If the board want, we can mix them up. We just thought that the deciduous trees might work better in this area. But
Has the forester commented on the replacement of 16 with 14?
not yet, no.
The forester has commented. There was a report by the forester. The only comment that he had, and I'll pull it out, was that he suggested possibly some screening on the Fairview side of our property line, and as the pictures will depict, we do have some shrubbery along there, but that was the suggestion of the forester, and that was the only suggestion he had.
Yeah, the comment on the replacement was ours, and so we would just suggest you work with the forester on the actual replacement trees.
Which we will.
The thinking was just that evergreens are more cover year round.
Sure.
So
would
refer to the forester.
Less leaves.
a
Very true.
couple less trees are going to make a difference back here, but sure, whatever works, whatever the forester agrees to, we will gladly take care of. Lighting, Mr. Abramowitz can speak of some lighting he's put on the building. I know he has some that actually lights up the ramp and the walkways near the lower level, and some under the soffit up by the patio. We've added just 2 light fixtures, one on the garage and one on a pole, that just light up the paved area and the sidewalks so that they're adequately lit. We believe they meet all the normal standards.
And how far are they from residents?
150, 200 feet here. The light patterns on here are well below. The point 2 stops just past the cul-de-sac. We have another 100 and some odd feet to the property line.
What about ADA parking?
We're adding 2.
We have the van accessible space in the rear. We also have a regular barrier-free space in the front.
Will they be marked as such?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, both will be marked.
Mr. Rigg, have you seen the report from the Fire Chief, District 2?
No.
No, sir, we have not seen any report from the fire chief. We were looking for that, but
Yes, he has a letter out.
There's one in here.
You've got it.
right there, yes.
particularly concerned about items 2 and 4. Now I know why you didn't testify if you didn't to those, if you hadn't seen them.
We hadn't seen this, Mr. Chairman.
It's far towards the back. Yeah, no guarantees, but towards the back is usually a good place to start.
With regard to number 3, I can speak to that. The new building will be sprinklered.
My particular concerns are number items 2 and 4.
I'm not sure where he's looking for the fire lane, but we can. I don't know if there's an issue with striping an area for that because we don't have any parking near the building. If he's talking to the rear of the building, the building is actually, most of it is only 1 story high back there. But unaware, so I can't
Yeah,
address it.
we just, it appears, Mr. Chairman, where he says a fire lane to be constructed with the capability to support an elevated platform fire apparatus to provide for the rescue of residents on the 2nd floor. Mr. Rigg can testify on the elevations, but I take it that he wants to, that means he wants to get closer to the structure itself. I don't know. Is he speaking of getting closer this way or in terms of, but I don't know what he.
I'd have to go through with him, but understand this patio is walkout for the 2nd floor. The 2nd floor actually has a walkout access to ground level at that section.
Would you agree to get in touch with the fire
Absolutely.
chief and discuss
Sure.
that letter with him?
We
And
would, Mr. Chairman, definitely. No, in fact, we were looking for the fire comments, and we hadn't received them, and that was the only one your board secretary has been unbelievably great in cooperating with us and providing us all the reports and everything. This is the one we never saw. So this is helpful that we see this, but we will definitely read it.
okay, Laura, can you be sure that they get a copy of that?
Right.
Okay. If you can return that to me, and we'll make sure you get a copy.
Yeah, I think the actual effect on that, as Mr. Rigg testified, would be that it's, that 2nd floor is coming out on grade because of the grade of the property. So, I don't know, and possibly the fire chief did not understand that that was actually going to be on grade, so there wouldn't be any reason to have any, the exit, Bruce, they can testify to that, on the coming out, and Mr. Abramovich will testify to it also. Is there going to be an exit onto grade from that 2nd floor?
This area up here is walkout to 2nd floor, and there's 2 exits for the lower level toward closer to the building. So there is exits from all 3, both levels.
Okay. We have a letter here for you. You can take this.
Thank you.
I got it. Yeah, there you go.
Thank you.
Got a copy.
So, Mr. Chairman, we will speak to the fire chief on this and take this up and address all the concerns.
He's a nice guy.
Everybody's nice.
Known him for a long time. Do you have any questions for Mr. Rigg?
The only other comment we had was just a couple little minor discrepancies on the landscaping plan, which I
Yes,
assume you'll correct.
which I
The
agree.
species listed in the table were fine, the boxwoods and the yews, it's just, that's not what was
Yep.
Indicated.
It just, they didn't change the
symbol.
symbol.
Engineer, did you have any? You
The
answered?
items in our review letter are the items that are agreed to, so we have to iron those out. So any resolution or action by the board should be recommended to finish up the letter.
Yes.
Recommend what? I'm sorry?
To just, they have several items and comments in the engineering letter, so the applicant agrees to
Okay.
the February 12th, 2019.
Okay. Any members of the board have any questions for Mr. Rigg?
Will the lighting scheme outside be on all nighttime hours? Is it motion sensitive, or how will that work?
I don't know that we have an answer to that, but the LED fixtures we've picked can actually be timer off with a motion sensor to turn it back on, which is actually the most cost effective.
Yeah, it's
also.
good for you,
So
and to the extent that it affects the neighbors at all, it's...
I assume they're gonna cast light
Yes.
downward rather than
Yes.
than outward anyway. Yeah.
We don't anticipate any spillage onto the adjoining property owners, Mr. Chairman.
Good. Any other board members, any questions?
Yeah, what's the basketball court for?
Any members of the public have any questions for Mr. Rigg? Seeing, oh. Come forward, state your name for the record.
Michael Pietowitz, 480 Park Road.
Would you spell your name, please?
Pietowicz.
Okay, this is for questions, not comments. Okay.
Live directly across the street.
Mr.
Have to use the
Strasser,
microphone,
give him your microphone, please. Thank you.
Live directly across the street from our great neighbors at the convent. One of the questions, maybe you addressed it and I missed it, but was sewer system. Is there any change to the sewer system that provides the sewage for the entire property?
No.
Okay. The reason for that question was, I guess the last time you made application for the expansion of the school, the 4 properties across the street from the convent are probably some of the only in the town that are on septic. And there was an opportunity at that time for that construction project where you allowed the neighbors to tie into the pumping station that you had to install at the time the school was constructed. I was wondering if that opportunity would still exist within this project, and I don't.
If we were doing anything with the system, possibly, but we're not touching anything with regard to sewer or septic, obviously.
Yeah, our intention is to use the existing sewer connection for the building, for the new building.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Anyone else in the public have any questions for Mr. Rigg? Okay, seeing no one come forward, I'll close questioning for Mr. Rigg. Mr. Strasser, continue.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to call Mr. Scott Abramowitz, our architect.
Sir, could you raise your right hand? Do you swear the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Would you state and spell your name for the record, please?
Scott Abramowitz, SCOTT-ABRAMOWITZ.
And you're an architect?
Yes.
Would you give the board the benefit of your qualifications and experience?
I'm sorry?
Would you give the board the benefit of your
Yes.
qualifications?
I've been licensed since 1982, licensed in New Jersey, New York, Pennsylvania. I'm a professional planner. My practice is in West Orange, New Jersey. I've been before many boards, not this board, but mostly in Essex County and Hudson County.
Mr. Abramowitz, have you qualified as an expert before those boards?
Yes.
Could you name some of the boards you've qualified as an expert in?
Newark, Belleville, West Orange, Orange.
And approximately how many times have you testified before a planning board or board of adjustment in the state of New Jersey?
Over a dozen.
Mr. Chairman, I offer him as an
Your
expert.
licenses are current.
Yes.
Any board members have any questions on Mr. Abramowitz's qualifications? Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Abramowitz, you were retained by the Franciscan Sisters in connection with this application, is that correct?
That's correct.
And with regard to your retention, did you prepare plans for purposes of the construction drawings in conjunction with this application?
Yes, they're considered schematic architecturals.
Okay, can you tell me how many sheets you have that you just raised up onto the podium?
Well, they go from A1 to A5.
And these plans were provided to the board as part of the application?
Yeah, have these plans been provided to the board, all these plans, which
Yes, they were
A1 through
submitted,
A5?
yes.
And are they in the package which were submitted to the board?
Yes. I've colorized a couple of them, but basically it's the same drawing.
Mark the set if they've been colorized, if they weren't.
What number we have, Council? We have
Let's go A5.
A5?
Yes.
A5, council, will consist of drawings A1 through drawing A5.
Very good.
All right, now, Mr. Bromwich, drawing your attention to the A1 drawing, could you very briefly describe the structure as proposed in conjunction with this application?
At the lower part here is the existing residence.
Can you speak into the mic?
I'm sorry. The lower level here is the existing residence. There's an activity room and existing 6 bedrooms. 2 of the bedrooms will be converted to other uses, and one of the bedroom and the bathroom between those 2 rooms will be removed so we can have access to the lower level of the addition. The lower level of the addition will consist of 4 bedrooms and 2 bathrooms and a multi-purpose room in the rear. From this level, you'll have access to the outside, to the stairs and the ramp leading to the parking area as previously discussed. We're also proposing an elevator, so you have handicapped accessibility to the 2nd level, and a stairwell for a second means of egress.
Mr. Bromwich, the existing, which you just pointed out to the board, is that the current infirmary for the sisters?
Yes.
Okay, and as you said, there'll be 2 of those bedrooms will be omitted. They will be transformed into other uses, is that right?
Yes.
And one being an office and the other a laundry room?
Yes.
Okay, continue on the, your A2 document, please.
This is the upper level. Access to this level is from the outside, up a set of staircases into a door on this side and a door on that side. They also both serve as exits. This is an entrance lobby sunroom, and around that will be a terrace with planting along the window wall. At this level, there are 8 bedrooms and 4 shared bathrooms.
Mr. Bromwich, you heard testimony directed to Mr. Rigg with regard to the exits. Can you tell us what grade level this is? Will one be able to walk out onto grade level utilizing these exits in the building?
Well, yes, they come out around here, and they come down a flight of steps.
Okay, how high are those steps? How high is that stairway?
It's probably about 6 feet, I think.
And with
But the grade comes up, so at the terrace area, they're almost at grade up here. But access to it would be up through a set of staircases.
Okay. And what about to the right side of the structure as you're looking? What is the difference in the grade area as one were to come out onto the terrace and go to the right as you look
Well,
at
the terrace up at this area is almost at grade, and then it slopes downward. So you're up on the high part of the hill, up at this 2nd level.
Right.
And then the grade slopes back down.
What is the highest wall?
That's my next question. Well, what's the highest wall on the structure itself? And I think, sir, you were talking about looking at the bedrooms, what would be the highest point from grade to the top of the structure itself?
Well, I have a section, maybe that'll help.
Okay.
Or maybe the elevation will be a better picture to show that. So this is an example of one of the elevations that I colorized, and this shows the proposed grade. So as we get into the sunroom area, we're starting to come up the hill. But the grade is relatively low in this area here, where we can have windows actually coming out. So the grade isn't that high.
You're referring to the eastern elevation
That's
that you're
correct.
looking at?
Yes.
And what about the western elevation? Can you describe that?
Well, the western elevation is similar. It's just pretty much an opposite hand of this elevation. It's identical, really. Here's the exit coming out from the stairwell, and then we have a doorway here, similar to here. And this doorway leads out to the terrace that wraps around the sunroom. And this is the terrace out here, and then we come down a flight of stairs to grade. And then this leads us, on this side, to a ramp that takes us down to the lower level.
And while you're on the structure itself and the elevations, are there going to be any light packs which are built onto the building?
Yes, we have a lighting plan. Around the terrace, there'll be soffit-mounted light fixtures that will light up the terrace. And these can either be photocells or they can be motion detectors, however the sisters want to utilize it. And also we have 2 light fixtures here that light up the ramp and stairs area that give access and egress from the building.
Do you anticipate any spillage from those light packs going on to the adjoining property owners on Fairview or any other adjoining streets?
No.
All right, can I ask you to go back and just explain any other issues with regard to A2, 3, or 4?
This shows a typical layout, an enlarged layout of how the bedroom and bathrooms work. This will all be handicapped accessible. The bathrooms will be designed for accessibility as well.
Can you go to the elevations also? Can you tell the board what is proposed with regard to the finishes on the exterior?
Okay. The intent is to use the same kind of brick on the existing building and the same type of roofing system for this part, so they work together. The sunroom area, we're proposing something a little bit different with a metal roof and a glass wall that wraps around, so they have a nice view of the lush landscaped area in the backyard area. We have pictures of what the existing building looks like, so you'll get an idea on those materials. So this is the building that we're marrying to, connecting to. Here's a better view of it. So it's this kind of brick and shingles with hipped roofs, and we're going to replicate that as well. Very simple building.
Mr. Abramowitz, as a result of your configuration of this building, do you see any adverse effect based on the architectural design to any of the adjoining property owners?
None at all.
Mr. Chairman, I have nothing further. Mr. Abramowitz?
Yeah, I assume you're probably going to use a truss roof?
Structurally, probably, but we've not really determined what the structural system is going to be.
That may have been the assumption from the fire chief. You can't put firefighters on a truss roof. They collapse in a fire. So that's why they want the availability of the aerial equipment to get
Well,
there.
the building will comply with the building codes.
Well,
And
no,
if he
I
has
under-
any issues, that's...
I
no
understand
problem
that,
with
but I've seen enough firefighters go through truss roofs.
Right, right.
They collapse. You know that. Anyway, all right. Do you have any questions for Mr. Abramowitz?
Mr. Chairman, Mr. Abramowitz, any solar panels anywhere on this application?
We're not planned for it at this point, but there's no reason why it can't be in the future.
Engineer, have any questions?
No question.
Okay, any members of the board have any questions?
Yeah, you mentioned the bathrooms and the quarters are handicap accessible, but then you mentioned stairs down. Will there be ramps as well as stairs?
There is going to be an elevator in the building.
Yeah, but the elevator may not be working in an emergency.
Well, you have accessibility, yes, to a ramp system that can take you up.
I'm thinking out, in case of an emergency.
Well, if the elevator isn't working, then there's an issue with regards to accessibility. But the code doesn't require additional elevators for a project of this size. In fact, it doesn't require elevators at all. But accessibility is still complied with
There are ramps.
from each level.
They have ramps
I
all
mean,
over the place.
if it's necessary, they would go around the building and come in through the other side.
I'm thinking about the sisters who are residing there in an emergency if they were trying to evacuate.
Right. Well, they have exits here, and they have exits here.
With stairs?
There are
No,
ramps.
There's a ramp here.
There are
Okay.
ramps on the.
There's a ramp that comes out from this lower level.
A2 shows ramps, and
The upper level has an exit coming out here, down these stairs, and coming out this way.
The lighting plan actually shows the ramps.
I mean, the code only requires an elevator, one elevator. On a project of this size, you're not gonna put in 2 elevators.
No, I wasn't worried
Right.
about that.
I mean, if you're asking if another ramp can be brought around, to come all the way around this way, that's a possibility, but there was nothing in the code that required us to do that.
Again, I wasn't concerned with code, I was more concerned with the residents in case of an emergency.
We'll take a look at that, sir. We will review that, make sure we have proper
On
ingress, egress.
A5, on your drawing A5 on the lighting plan, and unfortunately I can't spot it on other places,
Yeah, that's,
it shows a ramp up and a ramp down from the second floor, right next to the walkways and the
No,
entrance
this
plan.
is a composite drawing, it's not. The lighting for this exit is at the lower level, and the lighting for this area is a bit higher.
Right, but
And
if
the-
you
and
look-
the lighting around the terrace is at the upper level.
but it says ramps.
It says ramps,
Yeah.
right near your
The
pointer.
the left side, it's
Right
also,
there.
This is ramps to the lower level.
Right.
it's also on A1.
Right.
It's depicted on A1.
So coming from the second level, as I understand it, you can come out to the terrace without encountering stairs.
Yes,
So you can get out to the terrace, and
Yeah.
then there's that 6-foot flight of stairs that you'd have to get down to the driveway. Is that correct?
yes, that's correct.
Okay, but there's no ramp from the terrace to the driveway?
No.
That's,
We can include it, I mean, it's not a problem to do that.
We will
We just,
take a look at that.
you know, the code didn't require it of us, and I understand your point.
Any plans for an emergency generator?
Has not been discussed yet, Mr. Chairman,
I'm
but
sure there would
that
be.
is a possibility, yes.
We haven't done the engineering for the building yet.
Okay.
And budget. We haven't done that yet.
I thought they were free. Any other members of the board have questions for Mr. Abramowitz?
Yes, I just noticed on the plan, there's a proposed block wall and then 3 retaining walls. What was the maximum height of the retaining walls and the block wall?
The block wall,
There's on the plan a
What drawing are you
proposed
looking-
block wall, C1 is one of the pages that shows them. There's, at the edges of each terrace is a proposed retaining wall.
right, there's a retaining wall here, and a retaining wall here.
And then out into the property, there's a proposed block wall. I was just wondering the heights of those.
It's C1.
This wall here? Yes.
Yes, that one right
Well, that's a
there.
minor height wall, I don't imagine it being more than a couple feet.
Okay,
These walls, this wall here goes from 532 down to 528, so that's 4
feet.
feet.
I just wanted to make sure that there wasn't a variance for.
Mr. Ray could probably address that, too.
No walls are over 4 feet.
Okay, perfect.
Just one thing with regard to the lighting plan, have you thought of the color of the lights that are coming out there? Because I'm not
Color,
a
no,
fan.
but they would be LED. I think we do specify, I think it's a white light.
I am not a fan of the white, blue, anything bluer than this. I think
It's an LED
outside
It's an LED fixture.
is a bad idea. First off, they hurt eyes.
Like the daylight bulbs.
Those are terrible.
Yeah, terrible.
Well,
Warm white.
nobody from the public other than the residents here would see these lights. They-
Okay,
on
but
a
I
dimmer-
highly
on a dimmer.
suggest that they be slightly yellower or warmer than this.
Okay,
Just
I'm sure that's available.
Okay.
it's my own pet peeve, but because my eyes actually hurt when I see lights that are this color outside. It actually hurts my eyes at
Mhm.
night. So I'm
Okay.
a bit.
Like most new cars' headlights.
Is that a condition you want to impose?
Horrible.
Or is that just your suggestion?
It's my suggestion.
Okay, great.
Okay, any other questions from board members? I'll open then to the public for any questions for Mr. Abramowitz. Come forward, state your name again. got the spelling already, though.
Yes.
Michael Pedowitz, 480 Park Road. I'm not sure if this question is appropriate for the architect or for the engineer, or maybe even for this panel. I'm just looking for some assistance as it relates to the project. Park Road, if you lived, I lived there for 20 years. It's a major thoroughfare between 202 and Route 53. And with two schools on Park Road, with the kind of traffic that cuts through early in the morning and later in the day, it just creates a highway that goes up and down. And we've tried, and the town's done a great job with speed bumps to try to keep speed limits.
Speed tables, Mike.
Speed tables, thank you,
Not speed
Mr.
bumps.
DePiero. Thank you for putting them in, but they're not as effective as we would like them to be. And with over 250 children arriving at the school every day via car, individual cars, at a time where there's a lot of traffic from people trying to get back and forth to work, it just creates, I think, an area that should be considered a school zone, all around, all over Park Road. It's a safety concern we would have for the parents going in and out, and it's also a safety concern, even though the sisters do an amazing job of keeping the kids on the property. I asked the question of the experts here: how does one go about petitioning to get a road with two school systems on it to be designated a school zone, which would put in place a stricter enforcement with heavier penalties for people who traverse that road? It's just a question.
Are you asking for the entire length of Park Road, or?
I would leave that to the experts. There's two schools, there's Tabor Road, Tabor School, and the other school. And I don't know if it's the jurisdiction for this group because it's a county road or not. I just don't know what's the appropriate forum to take that to.
I can help you with that. It's not the jurisdiction of this board, but it would be the jurisdiction of our town council and our mayor's office as well.
Okay.
So I'd probably suggest that you contact the mayor's office through his action center, make that request. By being here, I think you've already made it of Mr. DiPiero here, Councilman DiPiero, and we'll certainly relay your concerns as well.
Procedurally, if you would send a letter to the mayor, CC the council, making your point, and it's a valid point, that recommendation would go to the police department.
Okay.
For safety review, and then they would recommend it, and then come back to the council. The council would adopt an ordinance that way.
Thank you. And in summary, we're huge fans of our neighbors across the street. It's the best neighbors to have. And thank you for your questions. But with all the construction and the expansion, it has done nothing to take away from our quality of life. And I know they put a lot of sensitivity towards that. But I hope you would join me in some of the safety concerns, just for more of the parents moving in and out of the property at peak travel times. And thank you for giving me that advice.
Complimenting an applicant, that's a first.
We're ready to wrap up now.
And on that note.
Mr. Chairman, all right, Mr. Abramowitz is finished. No one has any other?
If no one else in the public has any questions, I'll close the public portion for Mr. Abramowitz. Continue.
Mr. Chairman, just for the record, I do have the letter from the Parks and Forestry Department, and he states the plan submitted January 8, 2019 was reviewed. The landscape plan included meets with our approval. This office would like to determine if the final inspection, if there is enough buffer for the homes on Fairview Place. If needed, some spruce trees can be added at that time. So that was his report. He felt that our landscape plan was adequate, but as I said, once we complete, we will address that if need be for the Fairview residents.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, applicant rest.
Okay. Do you have anything else then, Mr.?
Nothing further, Mr. Chairman.
You're good? Okay. Do any members of the board have any
You wanna ask the
questions or
public
comments?
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
You're requesting the existing exemption of sidewalks. I believe we'd like to see more sidewalks in the town, especially along main roads, and just hearing that it's a school zone. Anybody else have a feel for the lack of sidewalks?
Mr. Mandel, if I could just speak to that, and that has been brought up, and I've represented the sisters for 42 years, and I've been before this board on numerous occasions for everything that we've ever done. That suggestion on sidewalks has come up every time that we've come in, and if you're familiar with the site, our property, there's no sidewalks to connect to, even if it were. We have a very countrified landscape plan in the front of our property. There was a full discussion back in 2011 and 12, another discussion in 2001 we were before the board, another discussion back in the 90s, and there's nothing to connect. First of all, it'd be a financially a burden on us, number one. Number two, there's nothing to connect. There are no sidewalks along Park Road. And the topography of that area that we own, if you take it down, and let me find the entire map, the sisters own this property here, which continues down. The school is here. The sisters own this property down here, which is mostly wetlands. There's a house here. It just drops off into nothing. It would be literally almost impossible to put sidewalks in that area. And that's why over the years it's come up, and our reasoning is there's nothing to connect to along that way.
I'm a strong advocate of sidewalks, and I've been on here for the other plans too. And that's not the location for them. The argument that they don't complete to anything, I don't buy for most other sites. Because if you keep saying that,
That's right.
you'll never connect. But that's not a good location for it. If we had sidewalks there and even scattered someplace else along Park Road, it's too dangerous a road for school children to walk to school or anything, so they would never be used.
Yeah, I can point you to several sidewalks that don't connect to anything. Over the past few years in particular, we've been more stringent on getting sidewalks installed. They don't connect anything, but the hope is that someday they will. Park Road's a pretty long road, and I agree with Mr. DiPiero that you don't want school children walking along, particularly in that section, anyway.
And I think hearing our neighbor, I think and we've heard that discussion before, people speed on Park Road. We've heard that many times. Probably wouldn't be a bad idea for a school zone to be declared, but that's another issue for the
Is
council.
the area in front of the school currently not designated a school zone?
I'm surprised.
Not school zone. We're not school
No.
zone, right? No.
The area down by Mount Tabor School, I believe, is.
Yeah, it is, but that's
But
further,
St.
that's closer
Elizabeth?
to on your way to 202.
That's right next to
Near
202.
53.
Yeah.
It stops.
Ours is not.
That should be taken care of.
I agree.
Okay. Any other board members have questions? Anyone in the public have questions for Mr. Strasser?
Comments?
Comments? Okay. We'll close the public portion. I'll entertain a motion.
Would you like me to read the conditions first?
Yes, please.
Proposed conditions are, the applicant will consult with the township forester concerning the selection of trees. The applicant will consult with the fire chief regarding his request for a fire lane. Pursuant to the fire chief's letter, no parking will be permitted in any part of the paved area leading to the parking lot, with the exception of the handicap spaces. The plans will be revised to address the discrepancies identified in the BFJ planning review memo, and the applicant will address the comments in the Keller Kirkpatrick February 12th, 2019 letter.
Excuse you, what about, the point that you made about the structure of the roof? Is that something that needs to be in?
No, we can't.
No, truss roofs are legal. It's just that I was linking that to the
Right.
fire chief's request that aerial apparatus be able to get there.
Okay.
That's all.
And how about the review of the ramp from the Sunday?
Yeah.
What is that? I missed that, I'm sorry.
Review it, ramp
I'm not sure what the right
connection.
wording is, but
From the terrace to the
from the
driveway.
terrace.
And I believe the fire chief had another comment about the hydrant.
Who's gonna review, the applicant will review?
Well, why don't we just say that the fire chief's memo
Memo.
of, yeah.
We include everything.
Oh, this is the fire chief's request.
Yeah,
Yeah.
sorry, I was.
Yeah, they had already
rushing.
said they're gonna,
Yeah, I hadn't seen the fire chief's letter either, so I was,
they already said they're gonna do the sprinklers, but the other item. fire chief's memo.
Which request are we talking
Yeah.
about?
Well, they said they're gonna do sprinklers, so the other three.
Okay.
Sprinklers are code, aren't they, Ms. Bailey?
Yes.
Okay, so you know what I'll do is I'll change the, one condition. I'll say consult with the fire chief regarding his request for the fire lane and comply with the remainder of his comments. That work? Good.
Okay. Any other conditions?
That is all.
Okay, someone want to move what he said?
Mr. Chairman, in application number 19, spot 501, incorporating all of the conditions enumerated by our attorney, I move that we grant
Approved.
the preliminary and final major, or approve preliminary and final major site plan for 499 Park Road, Block 166, lots 135 and 135, Spot 03, Block 155, Lot 7, Franciscan Sisters of St. Elizabeth.
There a second?
Second.
Mr. DiPiero?
Before the vote, the soil movement permit also? Is that what-
Yeah, we're going to do that.
Do that separate, because we can't do that. We have to move it to the governing body. Okay, yeah, second, Mr. DiPiero, call a roll.
Mr. Pereira?
Yes.
Councilman DePiero?
Yes.
Mr. Dinsmore?
Yes.
Mr. Pergeri?
Yes.
Ms. Hernandez? Yes. Mr. Mendel?
Yes.
Mr. Mealy?
Yes.
Ms. Feely?
Yes.
Chairman Keller?
Yes. Okay, so, you have a soil moving application in here as well. I'll defer to our engineer.
The soil moving permit, everything seems to be in order. We got the notice from the township engineer's office that everything's in order.
Does that address hours when the trucks will be in operation and the routes of the trucks?
I did not see anything specific about that. No, I just saw the letter from the township engineer's office today.
There was nothing specific, but.
Well,
we will work with
when the
engineer.
application comes to the township council, they would be concerned about leaving debris on the roads, clean up, the times that the trucks will be, how many truckloads it will take,
Not required.
and the times that they will be in operation.
We'll put that together, 3PR. It's possible there was a meeting today. We may retain all soil on site where it wouldn't even move off, but we'll comply and we'll meet with the town engineer and we'll comply with it. And we're very familiar with the cleanup and everything, so we'll take care of that.
Okay.
Well, for us to
Chair-
move to the governing body with a recommendation, we need to have a rough idea.
Excuse me, Chairman,
Yeah.
if you read the bottom of Justin Lizza, municipal engineer's letter, number 7, township council approval is not required.
Not required.
Oh, okay.
No,
I
it's
didn't
the
see
amount
that.
based on the amount.
Oh, because you're not gonna remove any.
See, you're gonna watch that 4-point type at the bottom. Get you every time.
I just got it today on the way over.
All right, so
you're
What time of year will the construction be happening?
Has not been determined because
You got your microphone?
Project has not been put out to bid, so at this point, so hope that we get going as soon as possible, but we don't even have a full set of construction drawings yet, so we have a little bit of steps, so I would anticipate, hopefully, we may be able to start, July, August, if we get out.
Yeah, so the kids wouldn't be in school
Kids
while
probably
you're
not be in school.
moving.
Obviously, we have to work around that schedule. The school is closed for the month of July and reopens in August.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Do we have to have a little bit of testimony on this subject, given that apparently we get final approval in this one?
Mm-hmm.
On soil?
Yeah.
If you have any questions you'd like to ask, sure.
Well, you've got engineer, I'd like to ask all of the questions Mr. DiPiero was gonna tell you that the council was gonna ask.
Well, you testified that likely it'll stay on site?
It may, but Mr. Rigg was not even part of that conversation because we have that area to the right, but it hasn't even been discussed with Mr. Rigg yet, but there's area here which it could be blended into, but if Mr. Dinsmore has questions, Mr. Rigg, be more than happy to bring him back up.
I would love to hear a few words from Mr. Rigg about all of the questions that Mr. DiPiero posited.
Unfortunately, most of those questions don't go into play until it's time to start construction, because it's asking where the soils are going to go.
Well,
how many
you're a
trucks.
smart man and an expert. You can probably make some projections as to
Well,
what it would be like.
we've got, if at the worst, if it's all going off-site, there's approximately 1,200 yards of soil that would be taken off-site, which would, 20 yards of trucks, so you're talking 60 trucks, which would take
60
place,
60 truckloads.
which would take place in the preliminary stages, because it'd be where the foundation is.
Given that it's a busy road and the like, and what we would probably want to do is, as a condition of permitting the soil moving from
After the
that-
commuting times in the morning, like starting at 10 o'clock or 9:30, something like that, no
Before
sooner.
7.
And then before the commuting time in the afternoon, which would be like 3:30. So those would be the times that the truckloads would go, and not compete with the commuting traffic which is on that road.
Or school children.
Well,
Or
that's the
school
other issue.
children.
That's no problem. We did that at the time when we did the parking lot also, so we're willing to comply.
And then the cleanup, of course, they'll be tracking stuff out. And
If anything's tracked out, we'll have it taken care of by our contractor.
Yeah, during the last construction, the same issues arose. Waited until all the students were in before you had the traffic going back and forth. They didn't want to compete with the people being dropped off either, so that would be
So-
the intention now.
So then if we asked your attorney that there would be no objection to putting in specific conditions, limiting the hours and other conditions that would make it so that it would not interfere with the movement of school children or traffic on that road, unless, I mean, obviously there are things we can't control, but
No, it's, we have no objection to that at all, because we have all the parents come and drop their kids off, and it would create total chaos if we have trucks going in and out, so we'd be willing to comply with anything reasonable with that, as we did in our previous application with the
Well, I'd
parking lot.
assume you would do most of the excavation in July after the kids aren't there. Those machines make a lot of noise.
It would be optimal to get that all done during the month of July, which it could be done during the 1 month of July.
So you wouldn't be interfering with Mount Tabor School at the other end of Park Road either, so. But a lot of people's testimony was already made, use Park Road as a shuttle between Route 53 and Route 202. So would between the hours of 9 and 4 be satisfactory?
That'd be fine, Mr. Chairman.
Is that amenable to the board? Truck movement between 9 and 4? And that you'll clean up?
The only concern is that's assuming the project actually takes place between July and August. If there's time in September in which that's going over, that now 4 o'clock is no longer a good time for.
More like 2:30 then.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you run into school hours. And what time does St. Elizabeth's open for school? Is it in August or after Labor Day or?
August. Summer program opens in August, we'll close in July. We reopen in August.
So, Mr. Rigg, is it possible to move 50 trucks in July?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, as long as the project's in place to move forward, but it's a
And
month.
realize that you're gonna
month
have to
would be-
curtail hours if you run past.
Yes.
You're agreeable to that?
We're agreeable to that, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. All right. Any other restrictions or comments?
Would you state that for me again, Chairman? I was reading the ordinance.
Between 9 and, they'll move trucks between 9 and 4 during the month of July. If they run into school time in August, they'll curtail the hours. And they will clean up after any dirt spillage on the roadway.
so as not to interfere with the movement of school children.
All right.
Or rush hour traffic.
Mr. Chairman, what hours preferable to the board for August or September?
It's probably like 9 to 2:30.
9, yeah,
9 to 2:30?
Yeah, I think the elementary schools get out someplace right after
The
2:30.
high school gets out at 2:20.
I don't The high school gets
Well,
out
what
at
time-
2:20, yeah, so 9 to 2:30
We need to ask
is
the
probably.
sister what time the
Montessori
the children would be arriving and leaving. And you can represent to us what she's saying.
Mount Tabor gets out at what, 3:10?
3:30. 3:30 we start dismissal.
Okay, so
Children start coming in at 7 o'clock.
Mount Tabor School, though, at the other end of Park Road, I think it's
Yeah,
out
but
at
it's not the only school. There's
310.
Brooklyn, there's the Hills, that
Do they
202.
get out in
The
August?
Hills is 220.
We're now talking
Yeah.
September, not
202 gets
August.
backed up.
Yeah,
That's
that's right.
That's after Labor Day.
Yeah, day after
Yeah,
month of
after
August.
Labor Day.
It's after Labor Day, and Mr. Riggs testified that we
Yeah.
can get 50 trucks out in July. so.
He's
So
gonna
we
be
go into
driving.
August, September, we're talking 9 to 2? That's.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's fine.
I think August is, for the public schools, is not a factor. It's a factor for
For them,
for them.
their summer program. Yeah. So whatever doesn't interfere with your summer program in August, and it's not till September for the other schools.
fine.
They don't start till after Labor Day.
Mr. Chairman, with those conditions outlined, I move that we grant major soil moving permit in this case.
Is there a second?
I
Seconded.
Second? Who-
Hernandez.
Okay, all roll?
I want to note that Mr. Von Aiken came in at 7:55. Mr. Perelik?
Yes.
Chairman DePiero?
Yes.
Mr. Dinsmore?
Yes.
Mr. Fajiri?
Yes.
Ms. Hernandez?
Yes.
Mr. Mendel?
Yes.
Mr. Mealy?
Yes.
Mr. Von Aiken?
Yes.
Chairman Keller?
Mr. Bonney, you missed the beginning of the presentation, correct?
Not of the soil.
Not on the soil.
On the soil, right, okay, good.
It's good on the soil. Yes. Okay. Shovel some dirt and get building.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, thank you very much for your time, appreciate it.
Sure. We got just a couple of other things here.
Board member.
You want me to take this?
No, we gotta do this first.
Oh.
All right, there was a,
We did.
no, this is moving the date. Susan said it's gotta be done here because there's variance.
Right, this is, we didn't we do this?
Yeah, that was the
Not-
one that they
We
asked.
didn't move the date. though.
Yes, we did.
Did you? Oh, all right.
They asked to be adjourned till
I-
that date.
We adjourned it up to the notes.
Good?
Everything's good?
Oh, yeah, we did, okay. I thought there was a different one.
Did you want
Oh, you wanna, do this?
Yeah, if I may, if I have the board's attention for just one moment. In your packet is a resolution, a one-page resolution. We have a board member, Turan Ayaz, who was appointed to the planning board. His term is not up until the end of this year. I understand as a result of work-related duties that he's been unable to attend. But regardless, he has missed a great many meetings in a row. The statute provides that if you miss meetings for 8 consecutive weeks or for 4 consecutive regular meetings, the office shall be deemed vacant. And the appointing authority, in that case being the mayor, is to be advised as such. So this resolution in front of you simply deems the Office of Planning Board Class 4 member held by Turan Ayaz to be vacant. We just need a motion and a second and a vote on it.
For Jerry, a motion to approve.
Is there a second?
Second, Von Aiken.
You did that, Judy?
No, he did it, Von Aiken
Oh,
did it.
okay, Von Aiken, second. Call the roll.
Mr. Perelik?
Yes.
Councilman DePiero?
Yes.
Mr. Dinsmore?
Yes.
Mr. Fajiri?
Yes.
Ms. Hernandez?
Yes.
Mr. Mendel?
Yes.
Mr. Mealy?
Yes.
Ms. Veely?
Yes.
Mr. Von Aiken?
Yes.
Chairman Keller?
Yes. Turan Ayaz, as Scott said, he was an excellent member. Most of you haven't met him because he wasn't here in all of 2018. He's an engineer with the Port Authority, and he's working on the LaGuardia renovation.
Expansion.
So getting here on time for meetings is extremely difficult for him. He was an asset when he was here, but
He's not here.
he's not here. Yeah. So
I miss him because he was a very good member.
Yeah.
But I agree with this.
Hopefully the circumstances
we appoint.
Mr. Chairman, I have a couple.
Some of us
No,
met him.
the mayor does.
Came to
We don't.
the,
I have a couple of items.
Okay.
Just a couple quick scheduling items. The,
Oh, yes.
the master plan survey is done. We'll be sending out links, or one link, I should say, to all of you with the hopes that you'll share it widely among your networks. And we're working also with the mayor's office on, press release and putting that out, doing an email blast. I met last week with a lot of the faith leaders in town, and it was part of one of the mayor's regularly scheduled events. It wasn't just for the master plan, but it was an opportunity to meet lots of different folks who are, working with congregations of all types in Parsippany, and we'll get the survey out to them so that they can share it with their groups as well. So that was great. There's some ordinances that some of you have seen. Last year we had several potential ordinance changes. We had a package of ordinances from the 2014 master plan that we had brought back for adoption, and they were not advanced in 2018. There was a gas station ordinance that this board actually did master plan consistency for, and it had a first reading in council. That didn't finish up last year either. And then there's a third set of ordinance that deals with lighting and signage that I've been working on with Jen and Mike Ruggiere, your code enforcement officer. So we met this morning with the business administrator and the town clerk, and we're going to package all three of those together into a single set of zoning changes and get them to the council so that hopefully in March, I believe, March or early April, those can get adopted and get off of the plate, as we say. And then the last scheduling item is, and so just stay tuned because those ordinances will be coming back to this board for master plan consistency. Last item is the township would like to have a joint meeting with the planning board and the town council to discuss the affordable housing plan before the council's meeting on March 19th. So the thinking is, and that hasn't been finalized, but we wanted to check your availability. The thinking is that would be 6 o'clock, so before the township council meeting on March 19th.
We'd like to make sure that we can get a quorum
Yeah.
before we schedule that.
And everybody check their calendars and let us know if you're available that night.
The 19th, that's a Tuesday.
It's
I
a
believe.
Tuesday, yeah.
Before the regular council meeting.
I'm out of town.
Okay.
You like at 6 o'clock?
6 o'clock.
6 o'clock on March 19th. Raise your hand if you cannot make it. I know, John, okay, there's one.
So just,
Everyone else is good, can make 6 o'clock on March 19th?
Yes.
okay,
Okay.
so we'll get out,
Yep.
confirmation of that as soon as possible.
Does that have to be noticed?
It's,
Yes.
yeah.
Yes.
It has to be noticed for this board. It's already going to be noticed for the township council.
Right.
Or will be noticed.
Got that?
Well,
Or-
don't you have to
once-
notice
Once
it?
it's set, we'll need to notice.
Don't you have to notice that it starts at 6?
Starts at 6, yeah, they'll
Yeah,
have
for
to
the
have
council.
special notice.
Yeah, Colette will have to
Yeah,
modify our start
your
time.
existing notice, yep. Okay, that's it.
That's it.
That's it?
Oh, if anybody has any comments on the document that we handed out last time, Parsippany Today, let us know. We gave you a deadline of Friday, but we won't reject any comments that come in after that, so if you have a chance, please let us know if you have any comments.
Now, somebody please make a motion to adjourn, or she'll keep going.
See one at the end of the table there.
All right. Anything else to cover before the board? No. All right, motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Okay, we're adjourned.